Welcome to today's episode of the Best of Raleigh. I have got a super special guest with me today, Jessie Hrivnak, who is a member of the Coley Group. She's an agent on our team, and I wanted to have a good conversation with her today because she has an extensive background in not only in real estate, but also in wealth management. And one of her passions is helping people create wealth through real estate. So I'm super excited for you all to get to know Jessie. Jessie, thank you so much for joining us today.
I am thrilled to be here. I can't wait to share my story and hopefully send a little inspiration out there.
Yeah, well, I think you're going to drop a lot of nuggets today. But first and foremost, before we get into it, tell us a little bit about you.
Absolutely. So I actually moved to the Triangle area in the mid-90s. I hope nobody's doing the math. I moved here in high school from Toronto.
Wow.
And I love to tell that story in terms of the timeline because I've had such a unique opportunity in seeing the Triangle grow into such a great place. I didn't fall in love with it immediately. And as it grew up, I like to say, I've just really loved being a part of this community and seeing that change.
That says a lot because coming from a metropolitan city like Toronto, it's a big difference to come to sleepy Raleigh in the 90s.
In the 90s.
Yeah.
I remember I asked my mom to take me downtown on a weekend, and that was when Fayetteville Street was still a pedestrian street, and I looked at her and I said, what have you done? Where are the people? What is happening? It was definitely a culture shock, and it's just turned into one of my favorite places to be, for sure.
Well, one of ours too. And we're going to come back to Raleigh and what you love about it. But I'd love to hear a little bit about your background. You came from wealth management. So talk a little bit about how that kind of teed you up for real estate.
Absolutely. So my segue actually into wealth management, I'll share first, was really I was recruited from a job where my responsibility was about creating experiences at a country club level. And that has always been one of the foundations of what I do, both when I was in wealth management and it's transitioned into real estate. So I worked with clients in a family office setting where they were really focusing on building a cohesive look at their wealth, real estate included, and how they could build wealth through these different modalities. And I was there to make sure that they had a great experience around it.
That's so interesting. The family office is, an interesting place of its own. And a lot of people might not know what that is. So
Absolutely.
What is a family office?
So a family office, if you think about the wealthiest families in the United States, it was originally created, I think the Rockefellers were the first to establish it, where you had all of your money managements, your advisors working together as a team. So you would have your investment advisors, your insurance advisors, your estate planners, your taxes, your real estate, making sure that everyone was working together so that you didn't have these polarizing pieces of advice and there was a cohesiveness to how you grew your wealth.
And it's almost like a business.
It
is
is.
a business office for the family.
Absolutely.
So how do you create a great experience around that? Because that sounds like a lot of very high level people working together.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's some ego that comes with that. So how do you make that a great experience?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I have built within my career, whether it's been in wealth management or in real estate, is finding the balance between logic and emotion. And people hire advisors, whether it's in the investment realm, whether it's in real estate, to help accomplish a goal. And most of those times, those goals are heavily tied to emotions.
Yeah.
When you're building your wealth that you're leaving to your children, when you're purchasing a home that you're going to create memories in, there is emotion involved in it.
Sure.
And creating an experience is about being able to acknowledge that emotion and still deliver advice that is goal focused. And that has always been the benchmark of that advisor role for me. And I think that is the experience that every client deserves to have of how can somebody acknowledge the emotional piece that I'm going through and still help me recalibrate to focus on the goal.
That is so important because you are right. Like in every relationship that we have in real estate. There is a lot of emotion, and there needs to be a lot of logic and a lot of advice that goes with it. And sometimes it's hard for a person to remove the emotion and look at the big picture.
Yeah.
And that advisory role is so important in that. And for the advisor not to get wrapped in the emotion, to have the
to not
empathy.
mirror. Yeah. And it's funny you say that. All of us have a logical side and an emotional side. And when you try to live in just one or the other, it's really hard to make any type of decision. When you can find that place of wisdom where I'm considering the emotion and I'm also being logical at the same time, that's where the magic happens.
You know, there is a magical space, because a lot of the people who you're dealing with are very high level people. They're used to making very pragmatic, logical decisions in their businesses, right?
Yeah.
They do that every day. They do it quickly. They're usually very decisive. And then you pull a little bit of emotion into it, and it's a whole
Changes
different ballgame.
everything.
It changes everything. And you start thinking about they start talking about their kids, their grandchildren.
Yeah.
It's a whole different story.
And if you're coaching somebody to say, well, don't worry about that in your decision making, you'll lose every time.
Yeah, every time.
Acknowledge it, feel it for a minute, and then say, let's get solution focused on the goal.
That's such a great background that translates so well into real estate.
Yeah.
So tell me about your transition into real estate.
Absolutely. It was so organic, and I love that the universe really led me here. I was living in DC with my brand new family. I just had my daughter Sylvie, and as you can imagine, I was get me close home to mom and dad, get me close to her cousins, and one of my clients in wealth management was in real estate. And because of the relationships that I had created, it was a perfectly natural, comfortable call to pick up the phone and say, hey, do you think I'd be good at this? And it was, get your butt over here as soon as you can. And it was a great place to be able to learn something new again, and also take the experience that I had had and plug it into a brand new industry. And I can't imagine doing anything else.
That must have taken a lot of courage to be a new mother, leave a city that you're used to, leave a job that's probably paying you really well, and go straight commission in an industry you know nothing about. Maybe you had a little bit of knowledge. You probably had a little bit more knowledge than most people, and to come to a new city and do it.
I'm laughing at the question because I am a jump into the pool, no water, head first. I'll figure out how to fix it later. There is an element of trusting that things are going to work out. Was I nervous? Was it hard? Was it emotional? I don't think I thought twice about it, because I just knew that it was the right decision for me at that time.
Those are often the best decisions, when you just go ahead and say yes, and then you're like, oh my God, what did I just do?
You know,
what did I just say yes to?
There's two types of regret in the world, right? I wish I didn't, and I wish I would have. And I'll take the I wish I didn't any day over the wish I would have.
I agree 100%. So you've been in real estate now for over 10 years,
Over
right?
10 years. It'll be 10 years in February.
So that would have been 2014. So tell me how real estate has changed in Raleigh since you started.
Absolutely. It has really shifted from this place of being known for massive affordability, right? Which it definitely has that piece in comparison, to really a focus on the quality of life, the type of community I want to live in. And that is what is continuing to draw people to live here, right? When I think about the growth that we've experienced, it went from this story of, oh, this is this really great town where I can get X amount of house for X amount of dollars, and it's so affordable. And it's shifted into this great place of, this is where I want to live. It still has that piece of affordability, not as much, but it has a culture and just a community that is like none other.
I agree. When my husband lived here before I moved here. I went to school in Charlotte and was living in Charlotte, in uptown Charlotte, which I thought was very metropolitan in the 2000s, in the early 2000s.
Right.
There was actually an uptown, there was banking. It felt very vibrant, and he lived in Holly Springs. And so I came here kicking and screaming. I wanted nothing to do with Raleigh, but I loved him. So I was selling on site. I didn't move to Holly Springs until I was 8 months pregnant. We
wow.
lived in separate cities. He had a place in Charlotte. We, kind of worked it out. But I moved to Holly Springs when I was 8 months pregnant. The Lowe's grocery store had just opened in Holly Springs. And now Holly Springs is probably over 50,000 people. You have probably heard about it.
Yeah.
But when I settled there for the first 5 years, I was like, what can we do to go back to Charlotte? What can we do? But what I found was once my children became, 5, 6, 7, and they started to get integrated into life in the Triangle, it is an incredible place to raise a family. And I would be so remiss if we had not moved here and raised our kids here, because the quality of life is second to none.
I love that story so much. One of the things that I am working on with my clients that are relocating to the area is teaching them how to integrate into our community. Think about how scary that is, right? There's so many families that are moving here, and it's a brand new place. Where do I start so that that connection to our community can happen faster and really just continue to create such a great place for people to live?
Well, that's one thing that I think you and I have in common is helping to create those experiences. And I love that you said that from wealth management. But, I think you were drawn to our team, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because of the experience, right? And we love to get clients integrated really, really quickly. And it is a science. It's an art and a science, because what's so great about Raleigh that's not often mentioned in podcasts or in YouTube videos, when people are out there searching, they know about Raleigh. They might have a friend who lives here, but they're relocating their entire family.
Yeah.
Raleigh is really a place that you can integrate in really quickly, because a lot of people have integrated here.
Yeah.
There's very few people that we meet on a daily basis. It's kind of like a joke. Very few natives are here. So when you meet a native, you're like, oh my gosh, you're from here.
You're a dinosaur.
That's amazing. And so it is a little easier for people to get integrated, but it does take some finesse. And that's something that you and I are really good at. We're good at helping people find their people, right? Find the neighborhood that makes the most sense for their lifestyle.
That's the magic in what we do, right? That's the experience. I can take someone through a transaction and help it be seamless, and then I can help someone move into their home and connect to their neighbors and find a good pediatrician for their child. And that is an experience that is going to stick with somebody and create that loyalty and create just a really amazing time for their family.
It really is. And that kind of brings us to the Coley Group. And, this show is sponsored by the Coley Group. And the entire point of the Best of Raleigh is to help educate those of you thinking about moving here or already living here on the best people, places, and businesses to do business to help you lead the best lifestyle possible in our place. We think Raleigh is a pretty special place to live. So if you're getting value from this, we would love for you to follow the show, be the first to get to know us and all of the businesses and people that we interview on here. We drop a new show every Friday on Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube, and you will hear from some incredible guests, incredible business owners, and we would love for you to come along for the journey and be the first to know. So Jessie, let's talk about real estate for a little bit.
Yes.
You have a passion for helping people build wealth in real estate.
Absolutely.
And that is something that I've seen since you came to join the Coley Group.
Yeah.
You are really passionate about people building wealth.
Absolutely. It is. We all need somewhere to live. And I feel this immense amount of pride when I am working with a young first-time homeowner who is purchasing something. It's not their dream home. It's not the perfect home. It is the for now home that is going to give me what I need and is also going to set me up for success in the future from a financial standpoint. We're all paying a mortgage. It's just whether or not we're paying our own or somebody else's. And being able to invest in real estate, this idea of I've got to find the perfect home. The only way you're going to get to the perfect home is by buying the now home.
I love that you said that, because the now home is a real thing.
It is.
And the Federal Reserve released a study last week and they do this every 3 years, and they study the net worth of people who are renters and people who are homeowners. Have you read this one yet?
I haven't.
It is staggering. The net worth of someone who rents is about $10,000.
Wow.
The net worth of a homeowner is $396,000. That is staggering.
It is.
Now, you couple that with the NAR stat that said that the average age of the first-time home buyer is 35 years old. And we're in it every day. So I think people reading those kinds of stats and the, hey, it's cheaper to rent than it is to buy, and maybe it is for the moment, but the big picture of home ownership is a really incredible vehicle for creating wealth. And, most of the people who are buying these $1.5 million, $2 million, $3 million homes are buying that with the equity that they've leveraged over the last 10, 15, 20 years of their lives. And so I want to talk a little bit about leveraged appreciation or leveraged. I want to chat just a little bit about that, because that is a term that I feel like is left off of these conversations about renting so much. Let's talk about leverage.
The simplest way to put it, you are borrowing somebody else's money and you get to reap the benefits of the return 100%.
That's like a mic drop moment. So what that means is if you invest $50,000 as a down payment on that $500,000 house, not only are you making money off of that $50,000 down payment that you could have put in the stock market. Yes, you could put it in the stock market and you could make what, 6, 8, 10% realistically, but you're also making that return on the $450,000 that you're being loaned by the bank.
Right.
And you get the benefit of both of that.
And I love that you extrapolated on that, because there's been so much focus on interest rates, but look at where the growth in the value of those homes have gone. I will pay 6%, 7% all day long for the return that I'm getting on real estate.
You're paying it anyway, right?
Yeah.
And I think that there's something remiss about that. Now, do I think that someone who's only going to be in a city for 2 years should buy a house? If I looked at your financial goals, I would probably still tell you yes, because you can rent that house out later. There's so many tax benefits from it. That's a whole nother show that we should probably do. But if you're thinking you're going to plant some roots and you're going to be somewhere for 3 to 5 years, you should 100% be buying a house in any market. And Raleigh is still extremely affordable.
Yeah, I am seeing a uptick in the trend of younger professionals really starting to pick up on this. And it makes me so happy, because it really is creating this opportunity of, I can do this, the accomplishment. And we all know that you are going to build your wealth to a much larger degree the earlier you start.
Absolutely. So you're teaching some wealth building seminars.
I am.
On real estate. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of seminars about the how-tos.
How to buy a house.
How to buy a house, thank you.
But we are going deeper with this one.
We're going deeper. This is for the person who says, show me why it makes sense. Tell me, this is the family office integration at a little level. It is about, how is this going to short-term and long-term impact my financial picture? And what do I need to do to get there? And is it possible for me? And for most people, it's a yes. It's the light bulb moment that says, this isn't really just about the payment. This is about the long term and how it's going to impact my financial future.
It's a big picture thing.
It's a big picture thing.
And those are the conversations that you're having. So we will keep a calendar up with Jessie's wealth building seminars on it, because if you're in the or you're thinking that you might be interested, or that you just want to understand what that looks like, it's a great way for you to come in a very casual environment, have some appetizers, talk to some other people who are in the same position, and get some incredible advice that is free to you.
It's a perspective.
From a trusted professional.
It's a perspective shift. It's something that I haven't seen anybody else do and say, okay, this is just another piece of real estate that we want you to be excited to think about and consider.
I love that. So tell us a little bit about why you're so passionate about real estate.
I'm passionate about the feeling people get when they walk into their home. We are helping people create the most important place to them. It is. I love the correlation of, when you're on a road trip or you've been on a vacation and you may be sad that it's over, but then you walk through your front door and you're just like, oh, you are playing a role in creating that for people. And that's an intrinsic piece that I just love. And you pair that with the investment and the wealth building piece. It's literally that logic and emotion, finding that wise spot. So it's a joy to be able to walk on that journey with people and sharing that excitement with them.
And you have a family here.
I do.
You're really invested here. Tell us a little bit about your family, your daughter.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's amazing, by the way. We'll show you some photos.
She's a hoot. I've got a 10-year-old little girl, Sylvie, and my husband, Mike. We live in the Stonehenge, Greystone area, and we moved back here to raise her. That was the decision of being in a place where we could have roots and feel confident in the company that she's keeping, the culture that she's being exposed to, the community that she's growing up in. And she's my sidekick. She is just a ton of fun.
Alike too.
We do. She keeps me on my toes for sure.
But that's how, you got a busy life. Like you're helping your clients, you're a working mom, you're running a business. It's pretty impressive. Now, I want to shift into Raleigh.
Yes.
And talking about Raleigh, you've been here for a long, long time. Tell me why Raleigh? What's for somebody out there who's thinking about moving here, like, why?
I love that question. There is this beautiful balance of small town feel, culture, and lifestyle that has just created magic here, right? Where you've got the food scene is incredible. I mean, some of the top chefs and experiences that we've been able to have here, the festivals, the proximity to beach and mountains. It's you gotta have a really hard argument to say why this is not the best place to live in the country. Convince me that it's not.
I mean, they can't because it's usually number one or number two on all the lists, right?
You don't get eaten up by the city in terms of the metropolitan feel, while you still have a leadership of our community that is growth. We were just hearing Marianne Baldwin at the Compass office the other day. Growth isn't going anywhere for us, and it's really about how we embrace it. And I think Raleigh's done a really great job of embracing it in a healthy way of we're not going to lose our identity of that small town Southern charm, and we're also going to bring the rest of the world here with us.
That's so important, and that's a great way of saying it. And I love that you address the growth, because people ask me all the time, is Raleigh still a good investment? Is it still a great place to live? And it is. And I think the thing that I always think of is the people who move here from New York, LA, San Francisco, they talk about how it's a slower pace of life. It's just a little easier and a little less intense to live here.
The intensity is the what you feel, right? It's like when you go to New York City and you're like, this is fun, but like I couldn't do this every day, right? And Raleigh has just created a great blend of it's there for you when you want it, and you can also retreat when you really want to have your community. And I think that I love that we've started to develop a little bit more of that with the Holly Springs and the Cary and Apex. And I don't think I felt it as much when we first moved here. Midtown and downtown and north, like we're really starting to create those micro communities within the greater Raleigh area that it's just only going to contribute to being a great place.
You're 100% right. So what's your favorite thing to do in Raleigh? Favorite festival? Is there anything that stands out to you?
I love the International Beer Festival.
Now we know.
That's a fun one. Anything that has to do with music outdoors is really great. And I would say the lazy days that downtown Cary has, exposing just the local artists and their creativity. You meet some really, really talented people. Those are some of my favorites for sure.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that, Jessie. Where can everyone find you?
You can usually find me out showing homes at the Coley Group office or in Downward Dog at Dose Yoga.
How about online?
That's right.
Where can they find you online? We're keeping this in.
No, we're not. Are we really? We're keeping that in.
Where can they find you online?
I absolutely would love everyone to check out my Instagram. It's JESHRIV. I share so much about our community, about the process of buying a home. I give you a little sneak peek into who I am. It's a great place just to learn about all three of those things.
and you can find her at the Coley Group as well. So thank you so much for joining us today, Jessie. This was an amazing conversation. I hope that you all got so much out of this. You know, we think that Raleigh is a pretty incredible place to live, and we love sharing our city. So for those of you who are thinking about making a move, we would love to be your trusted resource and your go-to. Whether you're moving within Raleigh or moving here from out of state, we've got you covered either way. You can reach us at all the details below, and we drop a new episode here on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube every single week on Fridays. So hit that follow button, leave us a comment. We would love to get to know you better, and we'll see you on the next Best of Raleigh.